All right, all right, all right. Here we are, episode two of the Owls, a Son of a Bitch podcast, unscripted, uncensored, and unapologetic, a real and raw journey of Alzheimer's. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to be here. We got episode one in the can, so to speak. Thank you if you tuned in and checked us out on our episode one. Very much appreciate that. I heard from many that has seen us on social media, the message that we're trying to get out, listen to our podcast episode one, and the reaction and the support and the appreciation for the thought of what we're trying to do here was very overwhelming, and it was very humbling. We put out episode one in time is commemoration of my dad Rick's 82nd birthday. Um, and just hearing from you that you're here, right? You're a part of the community, was just amazing to me. Uh, so thank you very much. Be sure to share with all of your friends and family, because let's face it, Alzheimer's has touched us all. Uh, that we are here and we are trying to grow this community. Um, Today's episode, we are going to talk more about that community and support system and how we are here to support everyone that's been touched by owls, as well as the horrifying dark topic that no one ever talks about, suicide. Uh, as a collective, human beings are a stubborn bunch, right? We are some stubborn sons of bitches. We don't want to ask for help. We don't want to acknowledge that we need the help. Um, we just charge on and we try to do everything ourselves. Um, and when it comes to something like Alzheimer's and dementia in that journey, we can't do it ourselves. We are not invincible. We're not superheroes. We don't run around with capes. We're not invisible. Uh, we need to have a collective, a group, a community where we can be heard, we can find resources, we can come together, right? Just to know that there is somebody that's going through what we went through. Now, let me specify or you say again, I wasn't the primary caregiver. Um, I was able to witness this journey kind of from a distance. Um, but we've all kind of been there and we've all seen it, right? The number of times that we hear, I can do this on my own. Uh, my loved one doesn't need to be placed in a memory care or a care home. Uh, I promised my loved one that I wouldn't place them in a memory care facility. I promised to keep them at home, and I want to honor my promise to them. Uh, we can't do it alone. We need that support and we need that help. Um, so my hope is that we can grow this community and this support system to help everyone that is touched by this beast of a disease, right? Victims, family, friends, caregivers, basically just everyone. Uh, I hope that we can cut through the crap and the silence and get down to the raw realities of what Alzheimer's and dementia is, right? What this disease really is. In today's topic, we're going to dwell into more of exactly that. And today's topic is going to be suicide, right? But we're going to cover in our next episodes, we're going to talk about caregivers, caregiver burnout, right? What is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? What are the signs that a loved one may be starting down that journey? How, in the early stages, do you get your financial affairs in order? When is a good time to get your financial affairs in order? What about testing? There's testing that can be done now to see if uh, we carry the genes that might indicate that we will end up going down that journey ourselves. Uh, how to talk to a doctor, get their attention about your concerns as a caregiver, about one of your uh, family members may be showing those signs. What questions to ask of that doctor. Um, I'm a veteran. One of my other passions is advocating for veterans and protecting veterans' rights. What about our veteran community? What resources are there for them through the VA? What opportunities do they have for support through the VA system? Um, and most importantly, is your experiences and your stories. Having and lending your voice to this community is probably the most important of it all. Just to show again that we are not alone. We are in this together. We have others that have gone through what we have gone through. Uh, so if you're interested in being on the podcast, I would love to chat with you about that. If you are an Alzheimer's victim and you are in the early stages of Alzheimer's and you would be interested in coming on and in discussing kind of what your experience is, would love to have you participate as well. Um, One of the biggest things as my dad progressed through the Alzheimer's journey was kind of the stuff that was never really talked about. We took classes through the Alzheimer's Association, a great organization. They provide a lot of resources to the victim and the family, the caregivers. Uh, but I think it's a very broad and general um, topics they cover. They don't get really dug down into it. I do need to be honest that the last time I took anything through the Alzheimer's Association was quite a while ago. So I know that things change and get and progress. Um, my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in about 2011, 2012. In October, Halloween, about that 2012 time frame. My mom and dad came over, and my mom, my wife, and the two kids went trick-or-treating. And my dad and I were here to hold down the fort, right? Answer the door, pass out candy. And we were chatting. He was fully aware of owls. In fact, by that time, he had already um nicknamed it Al. And we were talking about how he was doing and what his thoughts were with Al and how he felt with it. And as we were chatting, he brought up the fact that he knew the direction that he was heading. He knew that um, the latter parts of this journey were going to be challenging and tough for those around him. He had seen my grandmother progress through the Alzheimer's journey and knew kind of where he was headed, as he would refer to it as the sitting around in the unknown, right? Not having any type of response to anything. So we were talking about that, and he said, I have a way that I can just put all of this to rest. I have a way to end all of this and keep any of you from having to deal with the progression of Alzheimer's. And I wasn't really paying attention. It hit me. What the hell are you talking about? So I'm sure I was silent for probably a good 3, 4 seconds. And I remember looking up at him and saying, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I've already thought about it. I know how I can end it, how I can put this to rest so that none of you have to deal with me as I progress through this and I become more of a vegetable and not, this was his wording. I remember it vividly, uh, that he didn't want a burden. That was the biggest thing. And I think it's a big thing for a lot of our Alzheimer's victims. They don't want to be a burden on us, their loved ones. They don't want us to have to go through that progression, right? And see what the latter stages of this disease does to them. Um, I was dumbfounded. Uh, Never has he had my dad ever mentioned anything like that before. He was a stubborn old man. He kind of did things his own way. Uh, but he was a pretty strong-willed guy. Uh, and just the mere thought of him even thinking about and contemplating suicide it took me back. So I looked at him and I said, "Why would you even think? Why would you even consider that?" Um, but again, he just didn't want to be a burden. He didn't want us to try to navigate that journey as he progressed. And I said, "So what are you thinking?" And for the last 20 plus years, my mom, my dad, and my sister owned a antique lighting and lamp restoration shop. It was called Bonnie Bray Repair down in Bonnie Bray area of Denver. Um, and he would leave to go get parts, right? Or pick up a delivery, pick up items to bring back to the shop to work. Uh, and usually when he did that, he was on his own. He My mom didn't go with him. It was kind of a way for him to get out, get a break. Um, he would also use those opportunities to visit jewelry stores or and pick up gifts for my mom for the holidays or her birthday. It was just his time to kind of get away, spend a little bit of time on his own, get away from the shop. Um, and he said, "Yeah, one of the times that I go to Aaron Johnson's or something like that to pick up some stuff," he goes, "I could go up the hill, and there are plenty of places there that I could just run myself off of the road." As he's saying that, I can only imagine the look on my face of fear, of panic, bewilderment. Um, and he said, my he and my mom would go up to Central City at Black Hawk quite often. That was their way of getting away on a Monday. Very regimented. They had their favorite places. He had his favorite slot machines that he would play. He even came up with an algorithm, so to speak, that so many losses would create a win, and he would play less money in those losses and figure out on that machine. And I mean, I guess nowadays he could probably get in trouble for that, but what are they going to do now, right? I mean, so he said, I know where they are. I know where there's places where I can just run off of the road and into a ravine, and I'd be by myself, and that'd be it. So as bewildered as I was, I remember myself getting mad. What a strange emotion to have. And I looked at him and I said, the as he would word it, the burden placed upon us wasn't his concern. That he had a family, a loving family, and that it was our job to take care of him and to get him through that journey all the way to the end, and that to rob us from that was unfair, and that we were there to um, help him through that and to be there every step of the way. And I think he understood that. Miraculously, during this time of our conversation about the suicide, um, we didn't have any trick-or-treaters, and that was a busy Halloween that year. Um, but we were given that 10 minutes or so to have that conversation and reassure him that we were all on board. We had his back. Um, he wasn't alone. As that night wrapped up and he and my mom were leaving, um, I gave him a hug and told him, "We've got him." And I think he heard that. So at that point, then it became a question of now what? Right? Now it was out there. The genie was out of the bag. Um, so I'm pretty sure I told my wife that night, but I didn't tell my mom right away. I checked on him the next day, checked in on him, called him, and of course was told that Al's was being a son of a bitch. um, Reiterated to him again that his support, his family was there, and we got him right. Um, the next chance I got to chat with him, and it was just him and I brought it up again and asked if he was still feeling that way, if that was something he was still feeling and thinking. And he had told me no. Um, Now, whether that was true or not, I have no way of knowing. And then I think that's what kind of pissed me off even more was that I'm just a freaking young man starting off a young family, a Marine. Most of you know that that means maybe not the most collective of rocks up there. How are we as a family or as a support system supposed to deal with a loved one going through with a diagnosis and the journey of Alzheimer's? How are we supposed to deal with that victim contemplating suicide? I know you're going to say, I can hear it. You're going to say, contact a medical professional, contact a some a mental health professional. Um, with the older generation, that's it was everything we could get to him to do to even go to a damn doctor to get the diagnosis to begin with. Um, I did fill in my mom and my sister, so they knew it. They worked with him on a daily basis. They saw him. I hope to have my sister on here very soon. So we just made sure that we would talk about it, right? Um, Mention it to him, and I kind of think that he realized that um, to make the most of what time he had left, and it never really became a concern again. Obviously, throughout the journey, there were some questions and issues with um, depression, but we'll get more into that. Um, as this kind of, as I just kind of mentioned too, how are we supposed to know how to handle this, where to go? Um, so leading up to this episode, uh, again, I'm one of you, right? I'm not a doctor. This isn't a clinical podcast. Uh, so I did like most of us do, right? I got onto Dr. Google, or nowadays it might be ChatGPT. Just as a side note, if I ever reference Joshua, Joshua is the name that I gave my ChatGPT account. Joshua is the computer from War Games. I figure AI is going to take over the world, so I want them to make sure that they know who I am, that I'm friendly. Um, Even as of today, over 10 years later, when you Google Alzheimer's suicide, there are more private resources out there than there are from the association. The only thing I could find through the association was a PDF, a flyer pamphlet that discussed the difference between refusal or a withdrawal of care and associating that to not being assisted suicide. So a withdrawing of care would be removing feeding tubes, not feeding, withholding water, pain medications. Um, that's all I could find. The research that I found said that older adults diagnosed with dementia are at a higher risk of suicide. Another report that I found said that younger adults under the age of 60 that were diagnosed with Alzheimer's were at a higher risk for suicide. Uh, Veterans are at an even higher risk of suicide. What was interesting is those statistics did point to one common factor that the suicide typically happens within 6 months of diagnosis. So within 6 months of somebody being diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, uh, they commit suicide. One thing is really clear. A diagnosis puts the victim at risk. So that means as a caregiver, as a loved one, as a friend, we need to be on the watch and aware that that's thought process might be, it's likely, not might be, it's pretty likely that that's what the victim's thoughts processes are. So have that conversation. Ask them about that, right? A medical professional is going to ask them, have they had any thoughts of harming themselves or others? What do you think they're going to tell a damn stranger? They're going to tell them no, right? They don't have trust in that person. But if is a loved one, right, as a family member, as a caregiver, as a spouse, a child, a brother, sister, ask them, talk about it. Mention to them that it's not uncommon, that it's a common thought, right? And then reassure them that you're there. Look, this is coming from me. This isn't coming from any expert. All I can do is look back at Halloween of about 2012 and think back on that and hope that just that conversation and that acknowledgement um, will help the victim be more open to discussing that with you. I think the other part of it is uh, looking back, make sure they know you love them. Make sure that you know that you're on this journey with them. Make sure that they know they're not alone. Let's make this unspoken word spoken. Let's Let's bring this to the front of this disease and of this journey. Um, let's let's do our part to decrease the percentages and the likelihood of the suicide, right? I recently met with an amazing friend of mine, Kathy Miracle. She is amazing in the world of elder care, Alzheimer's, dementia. Her resume just, it's a novel in and of itself. She will be on here frequently, walking us through this journey and helping us through this. Um, she she has a online dementia education program called My Silver Tsunami. Check it out. I check it out. It's amazing. But when I mentioned to her about the topic of episode 2 and that I wasn't able to find much out there as far as support for the caregivers, she was surprised, and I think she's going to make that as part of her training for dementia education. If we can do that, that's just one more step or one more way of alleviating it from our loved ones, right? Um, thank you for letting me go down that journey. I can't imagine my family and I were alone in that. Um, this is just one example of why we started Al's a Son of a Bitch podcast, this community, right? Is to shine a light on these true aspects of Alzheimer's and dementia. The true, the real, and the raw. Um, and this is why we need you, right? I don't mind sitting behind this microphone and this camera every day, for every episode. But trust me, you're going to get tired of hearing my voice. We need you to be a part of this community, to help us spread the word, to help us grow this support system, um, to become a true community. Let's work on that together. Let's do that together. So, how can we do that? Our podcast, this podcast that you're listening to right now, we are now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, Android, and we're on YouTube. This is being recorded as well and be put on YouTube if you choose to watch it. Um, all you have to do is go to your podcast listening platform and type in "Al's a son of a bitch" and it'll come right up. If you listen to the first episode and this one or this one, and you like kind of what we're trying to do, follow us, follow it, and subscribe to it so that the next episode that drops, you'll be notified. Join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as I mentioned. Um, all of those platforms except Facebook will let us use the full name of Al's a Son of a Bitch. On Facebook, the name of the page is just Al's a Son of a B, right? We couldn't use the full word. You can also reach out to me at Al's a Son of a B at gmail.com. Again, they wouldn't let us use the full word, but Al's a Son of a B, ALZASONOF a B, um, at gmail.com. Our plan is to post a new episode every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. So be sure to hit follow and like on the podcast listening platform that you're on. So today's the 23rd. So 2 weeks from now will be the next one. Um, let me hear from you. You can also reach out to me by my phone. My cell phone is 303-847-3526. Excuse me, 303-847-3526. If you are interested in being on the podcast, if you know somebody that might be, if you have a loved one that is a victim of Alzheimer's and they might like to join us and talk to us about their journey and what they're experiencing, reach out to me. I'd love to have them. Um, every podcast, we're going to close with the Owl's salute. So as Rick progressed through the Alzheimer's journey, he loved to have fun and joke and pull pranks if he could. His he loved sitting down and watching the old Disney movies like the Apple Dumpling Gang. When we would try to take a picture with him, right? He would laugh and then he would flip off the camera. Um, if you check our social media profiles, you'll see his profile picture there after one of our Alzheimer's walks a few years ago, pre-COVID, where we went back to their place, him and my mom's house, and took a picture of him, and he was giving the old Al's salute. So as we sign off of this podcast, um, let's give a salute to Al's, right? Give him the finger. Fuck Alzheimer's. Fuck Al. Send me a picture of you saluting Al. I would love to see that. If you send that to me and give me the permission, we'll post that on our socials. Um, you'll see in our socials that we're hashtagging the middle finger emoji and Al's. So, um, Dad, here's a salute.